Professor K here, and today we're going to continue on with our explanation of loops from our last video, where we looked at Animal Crossing characters and tried to log out each Animal Crossing character's name and taking it and applying that to a real-life code example. So here I'm going to work through that same example, but in CodePen. Let's get started. All right, so here we are in CodePen, and what I've got is my JavaScript up here and my console over here. And I'm going to start by writing my goal in a comment. So my goal is to actually let's not even use that, to log out the name of each Animal Crossing character. All right, so in order to do this, first of all, I need a place to store these Animal Crossing characters. What you do when you need a place to store something? You create a variable. And let's think about this. Are our Animal Crossing characters going to change? No. So we're going to use a const for this. So here, const, and we're going to call this animals equals. Now, from here, you could do an object or an array. We'll learn more about these as we continue with this class, but for today, I'm going to do an array. An array is just a simple list. It's really good for just holding lists of stuff, and I just want to hold a list of animals here. Each animal will be an object. Remember, objects hold related data. So here, my first animal is going to have a name of Isabel and a type of dog. All right, so we've got one animal in. Let's add a couple more. After each item in an array, in this case we're using an object, you're going to put a comma and then add one more. Here we're going to add Brewster, and he is of the type pigeon. It's worth noting that you can use any sort of name and value you like here. Name and type aren't things that are just built into JavaScript. You can put whatever you like here. So finally, we're going to do one third animal, and we're going to add Pascal. And as we all know, Pascal is an otter. All right, so now we have our animals data set up. I'm going to fold this down using the arrow in the editor so I don't have to look at it anymore. Our next part of this goal is to actually log out that name of each Animal Crossing character. And remember, we're going to use a for loop to do this. So here's the syntax for a for loop, for in parentheses, and then we're going to put semicolons, which will denote the instructions for what to do in the loop. Okay, so inside each for loop, you have to say, how are we going to keep track of what's going on in this loop? Remember that we used I for iteration to help us keep that tally going in our last video. So for let I equals 0, and remember that I is going to change over time because we're going to keep count of the iterations in here. So that's why we're using let. So for let I equals 0, what are we going to do to make sure it's okay to run this loop? We want I to be less than the value of animals.length. Length is what you use to measure the length of an array. So because animals is an array, because it has these brackets, but you could also log out the type of animals. That would work too. I'm just going to give this a little bit more room here. And then finally, the third part of a for loop statement is what do you do at the end of the loop? So here we're going to check that middle statement about animals.length. And here, down here, we are going to increment I. So that final piece is I++, and that is the shorthand for actually incrementing something by 1. And we can prove this. We can prove how this works by doing console.log I at the beginning, console.log animals, console log I one more time at the end. So remember, our original goal was to log out the name of each Animal Crossing character. And in our last video, we learned that you could get to each of these Animal Crossing characters, each of these objects in the array, by looking at their position in the array. And the way that you do that is by using bracket notation. So here we are going to console.log animals, right? And then in brackets, where in the array we should be looking. We're going to set this to I because we want to look at the current tally. And then finally, we are going to say that using dot notation, because each of these is an object inside of the array, we want the name. And remember, you can use the curly braces to tell when something is an object. Objects versus arrays, right? Remember that arrays are for simple lists of stuff where you don't necessarily need to put like a name around something, whereas objects are really good for when you need a key and a value pair. So key being name, value being Isabelle. It's a really good way to keep track of what's going on. Okay, so now that we can see this, let's actually try this statement out. Let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so we're running it, it's processing. There we go. And I was like, it didn't do anything. Nope, it did. All right, so let's read this through from line 19. We're console.logging I is 0 on the first run. That's really important to know. Remember, we haven't actually gone through an iteration yet. We haven't made a tally on the board. So 0 is going to be first, 3 is the length of animals, and Isabelle is the animal name at position 0. Remember that in arrays, all positions, all counting, etc. starts at 0. So just get used to that. It doesn't start at 1. Most things start at 0 with JavaScript and pretty much all computer languages. All right, so let's read through this again. After animals.name, we have 0 here. So let's take this out because I think this is going to muck things up a bit. It's just gonna not be as clear with that second console log. So let's run this one more time and see what happens. All right, so I is 0, animals.length is 3, and the animal that we're working with at this position is Isabelle. So here, this is Isabelle's loop. Now we go and we console.log I, 1, right? We're checking that at this point that I is less than animals.length. Animals.length is 3, 1 is less than 3. You can continue on with the loop. So here, now we get to do what we want to in the loop. And the loop says, okay, we're now looking at position 1 of animals. Remember, we always start at 0. This is 1. The second position in the array is 1. I know it seems super backwards, but I promise, just keep thinking of it like that tally, right? You haven't made a mark on the board yet. That's why the first run is 0. You have made a mark on the board yet, but you did it back here on the first run. So that's why this second one is 1. So here we have Brewster coming out. And then finally, go through all this. 2 is less than 3, right? So we get Pascal. The next run for this, we check that I is less than animals.length. 3 is no longer less than 3, right? It's equal to. And that's why this doesn't execute anymore. That's why this statement doesn't execute. So there you have it. That's how this runs. That's how this works. And if we take out those extra console.logs that help us understand how a for loop works, now we can see we've met our original goal, to log out the name of each Animal Crossing character inside of animals. And that's how for loops work. So with that, I hope that helps you understand for loops. Next, we're going to take a look at different types of loops using the same example and see how they are different from for loops. I'll see you in just a moment.